Number 9. Brutal sneak attack. On April 29, 2023, a hiker was found dead with severe injuries in a desert area near 6500 E. Libby Street in North Phoenix, Arizona. The police responded to a report of an injured person and found the lifeless body of Lauren Heike. According to the police, it looks like Heike was hiking when the suspect, 22-year-old Zion Teasley, followed her onto the trail and launched a brutal attack from behind, using a bladed object. Despite Heike's attempt to fight back and escape, her injuries were too severe, and she succumbed to the 15 stab wounds she sustained. Investigators found some of Heike's belongings along the trail, indicating a chase, and her clothes showed signs of being dragged over a barbed wire fence. Teasley's DNA was also found on her shoe. After police posted a video of a person of interest, they gathered evidence and video footage to identify Teasley as the main suspect. He had a troubled past, having been previously imprisoned for armed robbery, burglary, aggravated assault, and kidnapping from July 2021 to November 2022. His recent firing from a job because of aggravated behavior towards female employees and theft accusations added to his troubling profile. During an interview, Teasley mentioned that he struggles with his sexuality and identified himself as a Christian, but he denied knowing Heike or having any intention to harm her. As of now, the police have not disclosed the motive behind the tragic incident. He was arrested at an apartment on May 4th and is facing charges of homicide and probation violation, leading to his booking into the Maricopa County Jail. Number 8. The Burn Pile. On July 5, 2023, the dismembered body of a recent high school graduate from Nebraska was found in a remote burn pile. Several weeks after the disturbing discovery of 18-year-old Parker League's body, a 37-year-old man named Anthony Runard was arrested on suspicion of murder and other charges. Detectives arrested Runard on July 5th for killing League and using his debit card for transactions. The last sighting of League was on July 11th, when he was seen leaving a gas station with Runard in a black Dodge Challenger. Detectives later found League's DNA in the trunk of Runard's car, leading to his arrest on a range of charges, including first-degree murder, drug possession and manufacture, weapon possession, theft, and fraudulent use of a credit card. League's family reported him missing to the Tampa Police Department on July 15th. 3 days before, authorities discovered a body in a bonfire pit, later confirmed to be League's. He was supposed to fly back home to Nebraska from Arizona on the same day officials found his remains. According to court documents, League and Runard were at a Phoenix club in the early hours of July 11th. Later, surveillance footage showed them at a gas station around 4:30 a.m. Runard tried to buy a rifle scope at a local Walmart at 9 p.m. that day, but the transaction was unsuccessful. League's body was found around 7 a.m. the next day. Detectives found a significant amount of League's blood and bags of cocaine in Runard's trunk, and a large piece of rug from Runard's home was reportedly missing. League's head and hands were found severed and left next to his body in the burn pit, and authorities had to use dental records for positive identification. Runard is currently in custody at the Maricopa County Jail with a bond set at $2 million. The investigation into the gruesome case continues. Number 7. The Killing Spree. May 26, 2023 marked the beginning of a deadly shooting spree in Arizona. 20-year-old Iron Byers confessed to the crime that killed 4 people and wounded another person. According to court documents, Byers claimed that he carried out these violent acts due to his strong hatred of drugs and homelessness. The shooting spree began at approximately 2:45 p.m. near 26th and Oak Street in East Phoenix. Byers stated that he was walking along a canal with 41-year-old Nicholas Aronstadt when he shot him in the head because he was smoking fentanyl. Byers' anger was fueled by his brother's past abuse of the same drug. Aronstadt's body was found soon after the incident. Later that same night, Mesa police officers found the body of 41-year-old Julian Cox at Beverly Park after another shooting committed by Byers. He admitted to shooting Cox in the head after he spoke about using blues, a street name for fentanyl. Byers recounted that he met 41-year-old Stephen Young at a Circle K and rode the light rail with him. Byers claimed he shot Young in the head after he mentioned using fentanyl. Young's body was discovered near a Greyhound station on Country Club Road. The next victim, 40-year-old John Swain, encountered Byers while walking on nearby railroad tracks. Byers shot Swain multiple times, causing his death. His body was found near Extension Road and Main Street. Byers' final victim, identified as 36-year-old Angela Fonseca, was shot in the face by Byers during an encounter on Main Street. Fonseca was taken to the hospital and underwent several surgeries, after which she is expected to survive. Byers was arrested by the police for trespassing near Main Road and Extension Road in Mesa, Phoenix. During his arrest, he cooperated with authorities and admitted to being responsible for the shootings. He even told the police about the location of the 9mm handgun used in the shootings and the clothing he wore during the incidents. After a thorough investigation, police linked the shell casings found at each crime scene in Mesa and Phoenix to the 9mm pistol discovered in a fanny pack in Byers' room at his grandmother's apartment. As a result of his confession and the evidence gathered, Byers has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted first-degree murder. He is currently held in prison without bond as the legal process unfolds. Number 6. Thrown into a dumpster. In March 2023, 2 men were arrested by Phoenix police in connection with the death of a man who was burned in a dumpster. The victim, whose identity remains unknown, lost his life 2 days before the arrest after 3 individuals allegedly placed him in a trash bag, lifted him into a dumpster, and set him on fire. The incident took place in an area known as The Zone, a homeless encampment near 12th Avenue and Madison Street. After looking at security footage from the surrounding areas, the police identified the suspects as 22-year-old Larry Scott and 18-year-old Isaiah Baskin, along with an unnamed third person. The 3 men placed the victim in a shopping cart and covered his head with more trash bags. They were then seen lifting the cart and dumping him into a dumpster located near 11th Avenue and Madison Street. During an interrogation, Baskin admitted to police that he and Scott had helped in lifting the cart, while the third unnamed suspect had put the container on fire. Baskin also mentioned that he and Scott had added pieces of wood to the fire. Scott is facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder, aggravated assault, arson, and concealment of a dead body. Baskin is also facing charges of first-degree murder and arson, in addition to possession of drugs. Regarding the third suspect mentioned in the police report, the authorities have not disclosed any information, and the investigation into the homicide remains ongoing. Number 5. Begging for death. A man who was sentenced to death in 2010 for killing his girlfriend's ex-husband in the Arizona desert now wants to leave death row and be executed by lethal injection. After exhausting all his appeals, Aaron Gunches filed a motion on November 25, 2022, urging the state Supreme Court to issue his death warrant in pursuit of justice and closure for the victim's family. The incident took place in December 2002, when Gunches kidnapped Ted Price after a fight at his girlfriend's house. He took Price to the Salt River Reservation near Mesa, where he shot him 3 times in the chest and once in the back of the head before fleeing. A manhunt involving over 50 officers led to Gunches' capture and arrest. He admitted to kidnapping and first-degree murder, representing himself in court and consistently waiving his right to counsel. The sequence of events began when Price visited his ex-wife Catherine Letcher, who was then Gunches' girlfriend, in November 2002. After about 10 days, Price and Letcher started fighting, leading to Letcher hitting Price with a telephone. Later that evening, Gunches asked Jennifer Garcia, Letcher's roommate, to drive him and Price to the bus station, but they ended up on a dirt path near the desert. As Gunches looked in the trunk, Price got out of the car. Garcia heard gunshots and saw Price fall to the ground, with Gunches standing nearby holding a gun. Gunches then returned to the car and Garcia drove them back to the house, disposing of Price's belongings in a dumpster along the way. Price's body was discovered several days later. In January 2003, Ganches was arrested near the California border after shooting Arizona DPS officer Robert Flannery twice, though the officer suffered only minor injuries. Ganches was set to be executed on April 6, 2023, but Arizona failed to carry it out, and the prisoner continues to wait. When do you think Ganches will finally be executed? Let us know in the comments, and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 4. The mysterious disappearance. In July 2023, an Arizona man, 75-year-old Michael Turney, was acquitted of all charges related to the murder of his 17-year-old stepdaughter, Alyssa Turney. The ruling was made in the Maricopa County Court after a week of testimony. Alyssa disappeared in May 2001, leaving a note that she was running away to California, and she has never been found. She was last seen at her Phoenix home on the last day of her junior year in high school. She informed her boyfriend that Michael was picking her up for lunch before she disappeared. Michael reported her missing, claiming that she had left a note stating her intention to run away to California. The case resurfaced in 2008 when investigators re-interviewed witnesses and searched Michael's home, discovering unregistered pipe bombs for which he was convicted and served time until 2017. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Michael and Alyssa had a strange relationship, with Michael trying to control her life through hundreds of surveillance tapes. But the defense countered that there was no evidence to prove Alyssa's death. After the prosecution represented its case, the judge granted the defense's motion to dismiss the murder charges against Michael because there was a lack of substantial evidence for conviction under Rule 20. Alyssa's half-sister and Michael's daughter, Alyssa Turney, who played a crucial role in his arrest in 2020 through her social media campaign for justice, left the courthouse without speaking to reporters. Sarah testified against her father during the trial, sharing how he brainwashed her into believing Alyssa had run away rebelliously. She later became suspicious of her father and searched for answers about what happened that day. Despite confronting him, he refused to provide an explanation, suggesting he would confess on his deathbed or with a lethal injection within 10 days. During the trial, a phone call between Michael and an individual named Michael Seth was played, wherein Michael referred to Alyssa using offensive language. Police found surveillance videos dating back to the 1980s in Michael's home, but found no footage from the day Alyssa disappeared. The prosecution revealed that Michael had been filming Alyssa in their home and had hundreds of surveillance videos of her. They also claimed that he tapped her phone and coerced her to sign a contract denying any sexual assault allegations. Although Alyssa's half-brother, John Turney, and stepbrother James Turney testified during the trial, the jury was not allowed to hear James's testimony about an incident where Michael put his hand on Alyssa's leg, causing her to run away screaming. The defense argued that there was no DNA or blood evidence to link Michael to Alyssa's death, emphasizing the absence of a body as definitive proof of her fate. Despite the acquittal, Alyssa's sister Sarah has been relentless in seeking justice, using her podcast and her TikTok videos to keep the public's attention on the case and fight for the justice she believes Alyssa deserves. Number 3. A rancher moved too quick. On January 30th, 2023, an Arizona rancher was arrested after a fatal shooting that occurred on his ranch in Keno Springs, located just a mile and a half north of the US-Mexico border. The suspect was 73-year-old George Allen Kelly, and the victim was identified as 48-year-old Gabriel Quen Butumea, a Mexican citizen with a history of illegally crossing the border and multiple deportations. Authorities are still investigating the shooting, but it appears that Kelly did not know Quen Butumea before the incident. A friend of Kelly's said that he had experienced previous issues with people on his property, but believed that Kelly acted with good intentions. On the day of the shooting, U.S. Border Patrol agents told the county sheriff's department of a possible active shooter at the scene, with a person identifying himself as Allen expressing uncertainty about being shot at. Quen Butumea's body was found approximately 100 to 150 yards from Kelly's home, showing signs of a single gunshot wound. Under Arizona law, Homeowners are allowed to use deadly force on their property if they believe it is immediately necessary to prevent trespassing. This falls under the stand your ground laws, which defend the use of force when a homeowner feels threatened. Kelly's neighbor, Maria Castillo, mentioned that migrants who crossed the border were often seen coming and going in the area. Quen Butamaya's immigration status has not been officially confirmed. In the end, Kelly was charged with first-degree murder and his bail has been set at $1 million. During a court hearing, Kelly expressed concern about his wife living alone on the ranch and requested a reduction of his bail, stating that he could not afford the large sum. He identified himself as a rancher in court and is known to dabble in self-published fiction about ranch life in the border region. Kelly is currently being held at the Santa Cruz County Jail and is waiting for his sentence. Number 2. An unbelievable confession. In September 2022, a 52-year-old man from Arizona shocked police when he flagged them down in the middle of a desert highway at around 1 a.m. J. Elberry Stevens confessed to committing a murder and expressed his wish to show them the body. This happened near McNeil, a town located about half an hour away from the Mexican border in southeastern Arizona. After stopping to check on him, Stevens revealed to the deputies that he had just shot his stepfather to death. He then guided them to a nearby home in Pierce, where they found his 61-year-old stepfather lying outside between the house and garage. The man had chest wounds caused by a .40 caliber handgun. The deputies arrested Stevens at the scene. During the investigation, Stevens told the authorities that the motive behind the murder stemmed from his stepfather's accusation that he had not been reading the Bible. But he admitted that the real reason was the frustration he had endured for many years, dealing with his stepfather's behavior. Stevens considered different ways to dispose of the body, like dragging it into the desert by chaining it to his truck or burying it. Ultimately, he decided against these options, claiming that he was too lazy to dig a large enough hole for burial. The man confessed that his entire family disliked his stepfather, whom he described as an alcoholic who had influenced his mother into becoming one as well. Stevens felt that his act of murder was the result of 20 years of pent-up emotions. On the day of the incident, Stevens' stepfather had been drinking beer excessively. During an argument about the Bible, his stepfather told him to leave if he didn't like it. The argument stayed with Stevens as he spent hours in his bedroom contemplating it. Eventually, he mustered the courage to confront his stepfather with a gun and shot him in the chest after a tense standoff. Realizing he would likely get caught, Stevens planned for his dogs to be taken care of and then confessed to his sister, asking her to call the police. He then walked down the highway until he spotted a deputy and flagged them down. Stevens was facing a charge of first-degree murder and is being held on a $1 million bond until his sentencing. Number 1. The Professor's Death. In July 2020, 2 teenagers from Louisiana were charged with the murder of an Arizona professor, Yun Suk Che, who had disappeared months before the incident. Che was an accomplished academic and educator who joined Arizona State University in 2005. He held multiple patents, published numerous academic papers, and authored a book. The professor was reported missing on March 25th, when he did not return home from work at the university. A week later, his car was found in Louisiana. The teenagers, Javian Azell and Gabriella Austin, both 18, were caught driving the professor's vehicle on March 30th, along with a third unnamed person. Their statements to the police led them to suspect that Che had been murdered. Because of that, a search at a landfill site began on May 11th to find his body. After 48 days of searching and extensive effort involving around 15 people daily, human remains were finally found on July 17th in the Northwest Regional Landfill. These remains were found to belong to the missing professor. The motive for the murder and the manner of his death have not been disclosed yet. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office became aware of the teenagers after receiving a call from police in Shreveport, Louisiana about the suspicious vehicle. Further investigations led them to believe that Che was killed in Maricopa County, near Carefree Highway and 7th Street. Authorities believed his body had been placed in a dumpster and then transferred to the landfill. The search for his remains in the landfill proved challenging and costly, amounting to $304,000, with 15 people dedicated to the search each day for approximately 10 hours. Ezell and Austin were extradited from Louisiana to Arizona to face charges of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and vehicle theft. They were booked on these charges and had their bail set at $1 million each. Which of these Arizona crimes scared you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.